Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Follow us, likes, double tap. Now they control your life.
Hey, what is going on? Welcome to the 817 podcast. Happy holidays. Hope it was a special one for you guys. You were able to be safe. You were able to hang out. Jimmy, how was your Christmas?
It was like every other day. But, it was another milestone towards the end of the year, which I think we need all those milestones this year. What about yours?
It was awesome. It was a good time. Laid load, but it was still just good to hang out and just not work. I feel like it forced you to stop working, because it's easy in COVID to just continue to look at your computer.
Yeah.
So,
I'm pretty good at not working.
Nice finesse. Well, speaking of not working, everyone's probably off this end of the year. So, including the well-deserving journalists and reporters.
Yeah.
So this is probably their one time where they get to chill out. So we're going to kind of switch this up. I mean, there were some stories. We're going to highlight a couple things that we saw in the paper this week. But then also we're going to just have an end of the year kind of awards, kind of identify key moments. This whole viral stuff been going on social media around how it's going. What is it again? It was how it's going and how it's actually going, or what is it?
How it started, how it's going.
That's that's kind of what we're gonna do for.
You sound like a boomer. What are you kids doing on the internet?
TikToking around, sounds dangerous. But yeah, no. So let's go into the stories. I mean, the first thing I really wanted to hit, I know we talked about it last week, was around the rodeo and the questions we would have for the rodeo. Well, not the rodeo, but the kind of what was our thoughts about it. And we really just kind of, that article came out on Sunday, but it really started picking up steam here, really for a couple reasons. I mean, first of all, it was because the stockyards actually had rapid testing for everyone. 30,000 rapid tests.
Yeah.
So it could cover everyone who went to the rodeo, right?
Did it say in the article what happened to those?
No, that's a great question, though.
Because they weren't used.
Yeah.
I think what did it say? 700 were used or 700 tested positive?
Yeah, so here's what they have. They said 724 people took the rapid test and 95 were positive for the virus, a 13.1% positivity rate. So my thought here, which I think it's not near that high, but let's just go there. So if you would have tested everyone, if you would have used all 30,000 and had that 13% rate, I mean, you're looking at
a lot.
What is that? 3,000 to 5,000 people, walking around your city.
Yeah.
With COVID.
A number of them walking around without masks on.
Exactly.
This crowd wasn't the type of crowd that gets you out of a pandemic. They're parading around without their masks, and a lot of the stockyards businesses have not been doing very well with mask enforcement anyways. So they fit right in there. So maybe we're looking at an even higher percent than 13.1. If you're thinking all those people are then going and gathering in places asymptomatically and spreading. So that's not a great thing.
Yeah. And so that was, and a lot of the other looks at it was that they actually went and took the test because they had symptoms. So they're saying that those people, so the rate may be a lot higher. I mean, even let's just take it down to 5%. I mean, still 5% is 1,500 people. Walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fort Worth, just no mask. That's still a lot.
That is a lot.
So that's kind of a crazy story. And I know, Visit Fort Worth talks about the economic side of it. Hotel occupancy was was about 70% in Fort Worth, up from an average of 40% this year. So a much needed growth there. About 45% of the restaurants and hotels expanded employees' hours, which is kind of great for the holidays. I mean, there's some bonuses. But the reason why I really wanted to bring up the story, not just because the ridiculous amount of coronavirus potential spread from this event. But it's also just like the whole article is about how does Fort Worth keep the rodeo. And so there's a couple parts here that I thought was interesting. It was because of size. What was interesting is that even though the National Rodeo has always been in Vegas, this is actually pretty interesting. Like in Las Vegas, it's held in the Thomas Mack Center, so where the UNLV Rebels play basketball, like it's a part of the college. But the difference here is that the riders average about $65,000 in Vegas, but if they have it in Fort Worth, it's upwards of $100,000. This year they only made $40,000 because they had to keep it crowd size. But they usually get about $67,000. But they're saying that if they do it here, it could be a 6-figure day for these professionals. Yeah. And so even the professionals could arguably want the rodeo to stay in Fort Worth. And so that's kind of cool. And we're kind of like, I feel like the rodeo crowd, Fort Worth. So anyways, I saw that. I know that story came out last Sunday, but I was like, those are 2 points that I felt like really got me thinking about where the rodeo can go long-term in Fort Worth, but then also those benefits.
I wonder what contracts look like with Vegas. Obviously it's not something that Vegas would want to give up outside of a pandemic year. So that is really interesting if there is long-term viability, whether it's next year or 5 years down the line for it to make the switch. I mean, if you're a rodeo person, obviously you want the opportunity to get paid more.
Yeah. It says Fort Worth and Arlington will offer a stiff competition for the rodeo when the Professional Rodeo Cowboy Association's contract with Las Vegas expires in 2026.
Okay. So we're 5 or 6 years away.
Yeah. Well, they could be rodeo and Teslas by then. Like that's a long time away.
It does feel, I mean, it would make sense for it to be here, like just with the culture of the city and of the area. So I do think that is interesting. Like, how can we actually provide or use this opportunity we took this year to make a long-term gain for the city?
Yeah. And it looks like the payouts come from just fans attending, looking at it. So it's not like the fans are like donating or anything.
They're not like throwing money at them.
It's not one of those. So it's just talking about how much they get per ticket sold. And so that's bigger stadium, more money. And, so that's cool. And, we'll see how it pans out, I guess. I mean, we're at the 2-week point. Hospitalizations are up. I mean, just doing the whole thing, but I hope everyone's being safe out there. What do you want to kind of go to? We could also talk about, I think let's
talk about this, DART, being extended. So the work has begun on the DART Silver Line train that links Plano to DFW Airport. DFW Airport links the TRE to Fort Worth. And so part of this article is hitting on how it's a pretty miserable drive from Fort Worth to Plano, and maybe people would choose to take the train instead. I mean, we're both big public transportation people. I feel like this, I mean, I don't know how many people are going to be taking advantage of TRE to DFW switch to the Silver Line. But reading this article just reminded me of my first reaction was just feeling like the little brother that's left out again. And I say that as like the DART is expanding and, oh yeah, we have this extra little line out to Tarrant County, out to Fort Worth. Like, it just feels the exact same as any other Dallas suburb. And if that's not an identity that we want to have, it would make a big difference to have a robust public transportation system here as well. So I'm all for increases in public transportation, but just reading that article made me a little bit sad.
Yeah, and because it was about extending it to Plano, and hitting those spots to get to DFW.
Yeah,
it wasn't really about getting to actual Fort Worth,
right?
And so, kind of that was the philosophy. It's like, oh, I mean, the positive is like it's about getting to DFW when there is Love Field,
right?
And so now, I guess that's a positive that it's keeping our, I guess, competition between the two airports strong.
Yeah, but that's not. It's not really even a competition.
Yeah.
Like if you're flying Southwest, you go to Love Field. If you're flying anything else, most likely you go to DFW unless you're on one of the Delta or Alaska flights that goes out of Love Field.
But everything's about ways, and everyone's all aristocratic up in Dallas, and they want to be all like going to their own little private airport. I feel like all the Dallas people who actually want to be wavy, they like their Love Field. And
yeah,
it's like,
I mean, I like Love Field more. So
yeah, that's something that it is nice.
Yeah, I'd like Love Field even more if I could hop on a train from my house to get there too.
But yeah, so it's like, but DFW is like they're going to that airport. And that's all really. It's not to come to Fort Worth. I mean, it's.
Yeah, well, if you're a family living up in Plano, are you going to take the Silver Line to, let's say you're a family of 5, are you going to take the Silver Line to DFW, switch onto the TRE? Who knows how long the ride is in total. Yeah. Probably take over, I would guess, like an hour and a half to come to the zoo or something. Or like you get dropped off at the train station, then you have to get in an Uber to get to the zoo. Then you have to do it all over again to get home. Like, is that really worth just not making the 55 minute drive and trying to plan around traffic?
Yeah. Texas is, we prefer to drive. I mean, cause our public transportation isn't strong enough and it is not cohesive enough. But I think this is a state problem. But I also think how do we bring all the cities together? I'm all down for that. And how do we get to eventually Houston faster, Boston faster, San Antonio, all of it being connected?
Yeah,
I think is that kind of work long term. I mean, we're talking a decade, but like to be able to get to places super quick will be really exciting. And I think Texas leading in public transportation, which it never has, but leading in that race would be really cool to bridge our 5 cities together. Like that'd be super swanky.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in the pockets of gas stations and the people that fuel those gas stations, though, that have been fighting against that for a long time.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Who knows? Maybe Elon Musk and Tesla moving over here might spark something.
Yeah, we'll see. And then, I know another big thing on people's minds is the rent relief from the stimulus bill has come to an end December 26th on Saturday, and we thought the bill was going to be signed. You were talking about how
we were excited last Sunday when we came in here and it looked like the bill was being passed. So to update that, the House and Senate both passed the relief package, and the president is not signing it. He called it a disgrace, said that everyone should get $2,000 checks, which I agree. Everyone should get $2,000 checks. So the Democrats in the House brought a $2,000 check stimulus package to vote this week. The Republicans turned it down. We don't really know what's going to happen next. Is the president going to use his veto? Is that going to then get supermajority overruled? Is he just going to let it sit? Basically make it the next president's problem? Who knows? But other than people not getting money in their pockets, the big things that have lapsed are unemployment, the unemployment enhancement, the UI enhancement, expired on Saturday. The moratorium on evictions will be ending, and I don't think a lot of people trust their landlord to be super forgiving about missing rent payments at this point. And so it could lead to a very dark and grim couple of months as we wait for the next president to try and get something through, or we wait for Congress to get their act together.
Yeah, and we're looking at, and yeah, I mean, landlords have filed more than 7,500 evictions in Fort Worth since March 15th. And Fort Worth landlords filed for 446 evictions 2 weeks before Christmas. But what I know is happening is that regardless when this new relief has set up, I know Fort Worth as a city are doing things to protect people, and extending those who need help. I know we have some funds. I want to say it's around $10 million, and we've already kind of executed on $4 million to $6 million. And so there's still money being out there to support families who are dealing with rent and so issues. And I think that's powerful with, I think overall locally our the way we've managed our money to get through this as a city, I feel like has been good and going directly to people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's been pretty transparent. Like, it's been, from what I can tell and from my experience with the small business grants, it's been pretty easy to apply for. They've been doing a pretty good job promoting it. So, I mean, I think that's a good thing for the city. Fingers crossed that this next week brings something a little more positive in terms of unemployment and checks getting into people's pockets. But there is still help out there from the city.
And I know it looks like that Fort Worth has applied for the Texas Emergency Relief Assistance Program grant, which is worth $1.8 million. So it looks like they're also seeking out more funds to help local individuals. So, and this is just, I mean, this also just goes through the final kind of short story we want to hit before we really talk about the end of the year and our reflections of 2020. It's just tough for everyone. It's like it's tough for the business, and it's tough for renters. And it's like, what do we do? I mean, everyone's sweating, everybody's sweating. And I was wondering, I saw a tweet that this bill, supported movie theaters. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know how your thoughts on it not being done, strategy wise. What is, I don't know if you have business advisors or people talking to you about, how to look if you're a local business in Fort Worth, where to look, how to think. I feel like your insight could be better than mine, since you have a more direct Fort Worth business.
I think that this package is going to get passed. And so I'm not, super concerned about it. I would rather them do it sooner rather than later. And even like it's gotten the support in the House and Senate to where if Trump decided to use a veto, I think easily they would have the support to overrule his veto. So yeah, for $15 billion of this package was dedicated to Save Our Stages and Save Our Screens. Those were two separate movements that kind of formed together. Basically, it supports local stages, screens, places where people haven't been able to operate. And so that money goes towards businesses with under 300 employees. It starts out with supporting businesses showing 90% or greater loss in revenue. You can't be operating in more than one state, or you can't operate at a certain revenue level in more than one state. You can't be publicly traded. Like they did a really comprehensive job at making sure that this is going towards independent stages and screens. I think if you're a small business right now and you are hurting, trying to figure out where to go, I know that I think I saw Game Theory posted a place where they got a grant from on social media recently that is taking more applicants. I would really just hit Google hard because I think that is money out there right now. You just have to figure out where to find it. But if you're a consumer who loves a business that you can tell is hurting, support them. Buy a gift card now. Like, essentially what you're doing is pre-buying what you would spend in June or whatever, to help support them. If you're financially able to right now, it's going to go a lot longer way for those businesses than you can imagine.
And you're seeing that actually. I mean, that's another story that, I mean, we weren't going to highlight, is you also saw the big donation with the Goodfellows nonprofit that Star Telegrams hosts, where they do dinners and food delivery, and that's up. The numbers of people asking for Christmas dinners.
Yeah.
I want to say a local business is around $270,000 in donations to the food bank partnership that Goodfellows is what it's called, and Star Telegrams has been actually highlighting it a lot because it's their nonprofit. But this is like the numbers been high, so there's been a lot of support, and so I think that's what I think getting out of 2020 is. It's kind of an eerie feel. I know, with like not even really able to do a real Christmas.
Yeah.
So that's hard for everyone. I think that's when you know it's.
Well, one of the big things that Brooke and I have been talking about recently is that January 1's not going to feel any different from December 31st. January 2 is not going to feel any different. Maybe February looks a little bit different. Maybe March looks even more different. And so it's not like the clock's not going to turn and all of a sudden all of our problems are going to be fixed. They're realistically, like, I think maybe like 2021 January through May should still be considered part of 2020. Like 2020's already lasted 20 months or whatever it feels like. But there's a finish line in sight, and I'm excited to get there and to get to where it actually feels a little bit different. So moving on, we just wanted to take some time to highlight where Fort Worth has been this year. Some highs and some lows as a city, with businesses in the city, culturally. Do you have a win for the city? What would your overall win for 2020 for Fort Worth be?
My overall win, by the way, it was the Fort Worth Civics Club, a club downtown, who actually raised that $270,000 this year. So just want to make sure. The Exchange Club of Fort Worth Charity Fundraising Party, the 85th annual.
Nice.
Doesn't seem like my kind of party, but if you want to invite me, I'd be down. So so my win, I guess, would be the win of the year. I don't know if I'm allowed to take yours, but
yeah, go for it. We can have one win of the year.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I would go Tarrant turning blue. I guess going blue is a positive. I think that's a win of the year for Fort Worth. It just shows how we're transitioning, we're evolving, we're being pulled by our awesome cultural roots, but yet also our awesome potential as a city. So I think it's showing that those things are molding together really well. So yeah, that would be kind of where I would say the win was.
Yeah,
Kamala Harris coming was cool. I mean,
that was really cool. I think, what obviously, like, we're instilling our bias into this as we do a lot of this show. If you don't see the world that way, like, we can call voter turnout here a win because we have been known as like the second worst voter turnout big city in the country. And we came out here, put up a big number. Like, Kamala Harris came the week of the election to come speak in Fort Worth. That's crazy. I mean, that's a really cool thing to see Fort Worth on that landscape. See our city being depicted, seeing an area in 76104 being used and chosen as the place to host her. And I think that she was well received in Fort Worth. until, they got driving down to Austin and some right-wing people tried to run her off the road. But I think her time in Fort Worth at least was good. So I do think that's a really good win for the city. And hopefully moving forward, we can continue to engage people civically and in local politics to show up and beat our 7% turnout that we usually hit for local elections.
Yeah, that's going to be big. And I can't wait to talk about the local elections when we get closer, because that's just going to be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait for people to officially announce that they're running so that we can really get a grip on how it's going to look and figure out what's going to happen.
What would be your loss of the year for Fort Worth?
I think the biggest loss of the year for Fort Worth would have to be the tear gassing on the West 7th Bridge. I think it was the first night of protesting.
Yeah.
Maybe the second. No, I think it was the first. And it started all of the process was super peaceful. They were just walking around, and then all of a sudden, they're trying to move downtown. There's this line of cop cars that start to escalate the situation, and ultimately it leads to that tear gas being thrown really in something that just didn't have to happen. Nothing was happening. There wasn't any violence. There was nothing going on until the Fort Worth PD decided to escalate the situation. And I think the police chief has said that was a major mistake. Everybody was telling you it was a mistake while it was happening. I don't know if this is a good ask for forgiveness situation. I think that was a time where we ended up on the national landscape for a very bad reason and a situation that didn't need to be escalated at all.
Yeah, I think. I think that's my loss is another kind of, I would say, the Weatherford moment as well, where you saw the protecting statues and the whole the history thing that was going on there, and how you had people show up and
just a lot of really vile and racist things happening.
Yeah, and whoever was taking pictures out there did a phenomenal job capturing it.
Yeah,
because it got pretty viral on social media.
Yeah,
and I always feel like Fort Worth is always that city that gets, when we get national, it's because of our
racist,
our hickness. And so I mean, those are two, and I also think I'm now thinking about all the the loss of I think the whole politics around just the mask really was big in Fort Worth. I don't know how big that was in most cities, but in Fort Worth, you could just really kind of feel, that kind of.
I mean, I think it's been big everywhere, but a lot of small businesses just had to feel the weight of people making life more difficult for no reason, for their own selfishness and arrogance. I think that's a good one too.
Yeah. Well, we got a category here. What about what was the business win of the year?
We've talked a lot about the sort of biotech lane and where Fort Worth lives in that, and it's not something that is cool or trendy that gets highlighted a ton. It's not like Austin getting headlines for whoever moving their headquarters there. But remind me the name of the...
Dr. O'Brien.
Dr. O'Brien was awarded a massive grant. Was it $45 million?
$45 million.
To study Alzheimer's in Latinos
Black and Latinos.
And Latinos. Yep. And he's based out of Fort Worth. Yep. I believe the study will be taking place, or will it be taking place here?
Yep. He works at the North Texas research center, and they got the grant. And the reason why it's a big story is Alzheimer's shows up 10 years earlier on average in Black and Mexican specific study, Mexican descent, Hispanic. So that is crazy that 10 years earlier. So the study is around that kind of work. And they recently had an editorial in the Star Telegram that they directly wrote. But yeah, it seems like a very promising study done right here in Fort Worth.
Yeah, and that's a really incredible thing that, you think of a lot of the major studies and major developments that happen in medical in the U.S. You'd think of like Stanford and UCLA, like these big California hospitals. Houston has a lot going on. This is a life-changing development for a lot of people. And I think it's really cool that money is going to be coming to a Fort Worth hospital to spend time researching and developing this.
Yeah, and I believe they need, it says 1,000 Black people participants, over 50 in North Texas to include them in the health and aging brain among Latino elders Alzheimer's study, which has been happening since September. The Health Science Center researchers were awarded $45 million grant from the National Institute on Aging, part of the National Institution of Health, to expand research on Alzheimer's disease here in Fort Worth. So, and it's going to really focus on the biological differences that cause the disease to disproportionately affect Mexican Americans. The study will now expand, though, to African Americans. So it was first just to be focused on Mexican Americans, but I think that's great. And why is this also important? I think about things that fear me. I fear death. I don't fear death as much as I fear like more things like Alzheimer's and just losing, your motor skills and all these things that happen. And so the fact that we got work being done about it locally, being able to learn and keep updates on what's happening around it. It's that piece that Fort Worth needs. We need to feel like we're doing something innovative.
Yeah.
We give this small town conservative, we have traditional businesses, we have railroads, we have planes, we have we're just kind of that. So this kind of gives us a more fresh, I feel like we're going to do some, we're also a health mecca potentially. Right. And I think if we become kind of a Silicon Valley, I think the next kind of Silicon Valleys are micro, how you have micro brews, you can have we'll have micro innovations, and ours is going to be a biotech space. If Fort Worth gets into the innovation scene, it's going to be because one of these kind of companies or this research grows and scales, and rather than the company selling their study or selling their product to a big pharma or whatever, it's going to sell, it's going to build an actual business.
Yeah.
Near the medical center.
For
TCU's growing their medical degrees, professional degrees. We're getting talent here, and I think we're going to get a lot of talent there. So I'm prediction wise, I think the next 10 years of Fort Worth is we're like a biotech innovation hub.
Yeah.
If you would want to build a biotech business, Fort Worth will be a place you would want to do that. One of the top 3 places in the country.
Yeah. So. And that relates to your win also, right?
Yeah. That also to my win. My business win was a guy that I would love to connect with, just because he brings Silicon Valley history and tech. He actually started a company that got acquired by IBM before starting this business. But he's from, I believe, Granbury. But Fort Worth approved a $7 million incentive for Linear Labs, an electric motor plant. And they're pretty bold, talking about basically making Fort Worth the Detroit, the Detroit of electrification, quote unquote. That's his goal. And so he's, him and his dad are working on it. It's a smart electric motor company. And it seems pretty, and he has history. He was in the military, West Point grad, super smart engineer. Brad Hunstable is his name. And, he's, I think we need more of, people like him. Yeah. CEO of Ustream. So that was a big, I don't know if you remember Ustream, where you were able to, it was one of the first live streaming platforms.
I don't.
And he started it. and it got sold to IBM for $150 million.
Not bad.
Yeah. So then he came back home, and he's very it's funny that if Fort Worth has a tech entrepreneur, I would say it's Brad, and it's funny that he's like a cowboy boot Granberry kind of guy. So it's really cool. He really blends it. I think it's very Fort Worth-esque of us getting to the tech. And so I think he's a perfect leader for this kind of stuff. They're building like next gen electric motor cars and robotics. So that's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you have a business loss for the year?
A business loss for the year. I mean, I guess you could say like the Pure One Imports thing.
Yeah,
is a loss. Yeah, I guess you could do that. And
yeah, I mean that's a major corporation that we lost jobs. We're figuring out how to repurpose that space, which should be a big positive. But yeah, I mean, I feel like most people know at least one person that worked for Pier 1 who come this summer was trying to find another job. And so that was definitely a big loss. I think for me, it would just be the small businesses that we've had to see close, and that we will still see close over the next few months. It's what Fort Worth prides itself on, you know, like Fort Worth prides itself on supporting local, and really diving into local and small businesses. Yep. And so it's really sad to see those relationships get broken because of the pandemic.
Another, I mean, yeah. And it's been also neat to see, some of the, wins from business as well. Like another one was black coffee. I think about how fast that happened from, they kind of became a place for people to become more mindful of just integrating with Black communities. Yeah. And it became a space where, Doc's Bookstore, another one, and I actually got a $50 gift card for Doc's Bookstore from someone for Christmas. So, yeah, I think that's those are wins, I think, like that. They came on the back end of a loss, but those are wins. And I think, there's some positive is there's some people have been able to innovate their businesses. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with how long does like takeout stay. I think people who would never imagine doing takeout, right? And now, Bonnell's and all these other people who are doing these takeouts.
For sure.
And their like lines are really long. This is just interesting to see like how that works. And like they actually like now fancy being takeout and like do you keep it post. So really excited to see how that turns out. But yeah, no, I mean, what are you looking forward to most in 2021? What do you said, I agree with you, January, maybe Q1.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I was thinking about when do I go back to my life normal?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm guessing Q3, start of Q3. So what would that be? Like July?
August? Yeah, July, August.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much so looking forward to getting vaccinated whenever that day comes. I'm probably going to cry. That's just going to be such a world changing development. Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to, because then it means that we can just do so many more things now. Like I can go back to going to a movie theater. I can go back to eating and experiencing restaurants, go back to hanging out in coffee shops.
Yeah. You were so good at all that, I feel like when we did connect, that's where we were connecting at Craftworks.
Yeah.
Interacting with people.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of really great relationships. I don't know. So like Christmas cards have got me thinking about that this year. Like we just like look at our fridge and it's a bunch of people who we don't really have much of a relationship with right now, or haven't been able to have a normal relationship with right now because of the pandemic. And so, I think there's been even more of a lean towards like, oh, now we understand why the Roaring Twenties were the way they were. And I think that we could be getting back to that and having another Roaring Twenties.
Yeah.
And so I'm just excited for that day to come. Fort Worth specific, I'm excited for local elections.
Yeah.
I'm excited for a bunch of people who, over the summer started leaning towards, like, how do we fulfill our civic duty? How do we be involved locally? People who voted in November, and looking forward to what that brings to the city. I mean, we have 2 more city council seats being added. We don't really know totally who's going to be running for mayor, or a lot of the city council seats coming up for vote. So I'm excited to get into that.
Yeah. No, I think you said it well. I mean, I would love to, it's been a weird year because I feel like, we've just really been sitting in it, like legitimately sitting in who we are, when sitting in who we are, when who we thought we were, that armor got exposed, right? Like me, right? I was on the road 200 days of the year, this guy who travels and gives speeches and does all this, and that was taken away, right? All my, I had 80 events set up for this year, just shot down, and now I'm stuck. I'm home, more than I've been probably this 1 year compared to like probably the last 3 years combined.
Yeah.
Which it really focused on difference of like habits and things like that. Like, I don't think I would have been I got more news forward because of this, and I think that happened for a lot of people. You became more civically engaged. Like my wife phone banks now, like every Saturday.
Yeah.
Like, so like she's like, none of that happens. And so I agree with you. I think we're going to come out of this really strong as people and like our maturity as leaders. And I'm just excited to do that with everyone, and always down to talk or support whoever, any of my friends or people who need that help, cause it's been rough, but, I think, Fort Worth did a good job as a whole though.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have a like cultural winner of the year, whether it's an artist, a musician, just like somebody who's really stepped into the cultural space that you want to highlight from this year?
Well, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things I miss. And man, like I've been getting invited because, I think we recently have Tulips just came out.
Yeah.
Like, and they're doing some shows, and, like Lou had a show, and Sage, Mode Rex had a show. And, I was like, dang, some other rappers had some shows, So Supreme, all these like guys who I highly recommend everyone to listen to from the rap side, had these shows, and I'm just like, man, I'm just not ready, people.
Yeah.
I'm just not ready. And I feel bad. So, but I think, honestly for me, he was already a cultural icon, but I think the Jonathan's Morris, like TV thing's cool. Like, I think that's cool. And I think he's just a perfect, a guy for that, like to show a Fort Worth business. So I think that was kind of cool. Like,
yeah. And to piggyback off of that, I think that the partnership that he has created between Hotel Dries and Art Tooth to highlight Fort Worth local artists in his hotel, that's something that when we travel, we don't do hotels a ton, but when we do, it makes such a big difference when you walk in and the art helps tell the story of the place where you are. And I think that's what really separates like smaller hotels from your Holiday Inns or Marriott's or whatever, is that it's really focused around continuing the story of where you've just walked out of, and being able to live in that. So
and he's doing, and it's specific. I'm not sure if it's a specific underrepresented artist too.
Yes.
So Black, Latinx, or female.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool too.
And then the person who I think really helped put Fort Worth on the map in a new scene is Channing Godfrey Peoples and the team around Miss Juneteenth. Just having a Fort Worth based story that was told here in the city, having that at Sundance, and then, I mean, just the timing of when that came out is just one of those moments where, I mean, you really couldn't have like told a better story. And so I hope that that's a movie. I was thinking recently about like, how do movies become sticky, and like, are there any movies from this year that are going to stick moving forward? And I was like, holiday movies are obviously like the easiest path into there, specifically Christmas movies. But now that just makes me think, like, I hope that Miss Juneteenth is a story that people watch every year on Juneteenth, that it's something that people turn to. And so I think that was really cool to see Fort Worth at the epicenter of this story being told.
Well, do you have any, let's go out with, I feel like this was a very somber episode, you know, like it was very calm. And so, let's think about the new year. What is, do you, I don't know if do you write goals at the new year? Are you a resolution kind of guy? Like, and do you have any that you would be down to share?
Yeah, I'm not a super goal oriented person. I don't know. I just don't. Yeah, like some people are goal oriented, some people are, and I just like don't do. Not that I don't do super well with goals. I just don't really care enough.
Yeah.
But I would say something that I want to accomplish this coming year is really just continuing to see the impact of the Granbury really take hold in the city. Hopefully be able to bring in more diverse people to help tell their stories. Because it's one thing for us to put it on screen, which we're proud that we have done that a lot from the start. But incorporating people from underrepresented communities to tell those stories themselves and to be the ones taking ownership of doing that. So I'm excited for, especially probably the second half of the year, being able to get back into doing that. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely missed the Granbury. My last movie there was Uncut Gems, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, I think you came probably December, January.
Yeah.
That was January. Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I think, for me, honestly, this year, this is why we make a good podcast together, is I am very goal oriented. And I've been able to channel my intensity through habits. I think I've been focused on the little habits, right? And just keeping those, like I walk my dog every day. Mm-hmm. Like that's something I never did like before, because I was never home to walk my dog every day. I read every day. Like that was something I never did. Mm-hmm. So I look forward to live those out, continuing to do those habits. The one I need to do this upcoming year is workout. Like I sit too long. So like more just like back joints, like even if it's just like a 15-minute routine, a habit that I can implement within the rest of my habits that I developed over this year. That I am now that I appreciate, because you move so much. And I think this is the big takeaway of 2020 for me, and probably like if you're someone who's like your whole world was changed, is we wear masks and we wear these realities on social media, and it was really hard to post on social media this year, right? You couldn't do pictures of you traveling, you couldn't do pictures of you doing all these quote unquote successful things, wearing nice clothes, out at dinners and eating fancy plates. Like your social media game that you created your reality on, or perception to other people, you're now actually just your true self, your house slippers, your pajamas, your yourself. And what does that person look like? And when you are your business, when you are your art, when you are your craft, and now you have to just be like who you are when you're home. And I think that was a tough part, but I also think it made us think about, we had holes in our identity, holes in our ship, and we need to actually, this gave us time to fill those holes. And honestly, I think a lot of people are reacting to them just noticing those holes. And like actually 2020 was probably the reaction to the holes. Like, oh snap, like education, right? We needed to get kids laptops a long time ago, but now we're trying to do it. And so like they're trying to fill the hole because they see them now. So maybe 2021 is like we have filled these holes in our lives. And now 2021 is like to go out and live our best self so that we can add the parts of us before 2020, but then all these new parts of ourselves from 2020 into a better version of ourselves in 2021.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think you would enjoy the new Pixar movie Soul that came out on Christmas. Yeah, it hits hard. It's the I would say the least kid friendly movie that Pixar has made. I would say like very teen friendly and very, very good for adults, but
love it.
Just so like very good at helping you take that time to reflect on what your spark is, and also taking where your identity comes from, and taking solace in some of the more mundane moments of life. Yeah, I've really enjoyed doing this, and it's been something to look forward to in 2020, and I'm excited to see you when the calendar turns.
Yeah. All right, people, have a good holidays. Happy New Year. And we'll see you. If you lasted through an hour of us just vibing out, we should know your name and you should know us. Like, please don't hesitate. And we're going to keep going because this is one of those habits we are just creating because it's meaningful to something that does spark our interest. And that's Fort Worth and where Fort Worth is going. So take care.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Control your life, control your life. Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Follow us like double tap. Now they control your life.